Good day, and welcome to another AI podcast at digitVIEW.
Where innovation meets insight, machine learning to responsible AI.
I want to start today with a question that it sounds really simple, but when you think about it, it's actually kind of a nightmare.
Oh, I'm already nervous. What is it?
How many times have you sent a text message or maybe an email and the person on the other end completely, totally misunderstood what you were trying to say?
Oh, constantly. I mean, my entire professional life feels like just a series of clarifying emails, apologizing for the tone of the previous email. It's a mess.
Exactly. We think of communication as this really clumsy thing that we humans do. You know, we struggle with words. We definitely struggle with tone. We just struggle to get an idea from my brain into your brain without losing like half the data in the process.
Sure, there's so much noise in the channel.
Right. But today, we're going to completely flip that idea on its head. We have a stack of research here, and I mean a serious stack. This stuff covers quantum physics, botany, marine biology, and the absolute bleeding edge of AI. And all of it suggests something pretty radical.
It suggests that our clumsy, misunderstood text messages are actually the exception, not the rule.
Right. The core premise we are going to unpack today is that communication isn't just something that happens inside the universe. It's not just two people talking in a room. The argument we're looking at here is that communication is the room. It's the walls, it's the floor, it's the gravity keeping you in your chair. It argues that communication is the primary mechanism that structures reality itself.
It's a massive shift in perspective, isn't it? We usually think of the universe as a collection of stuff, you know, atoms, rocks, stars. And then way down the line, life evolves and starts, talking about all the stuff.
Yes, that's the standard model.
But the RESRH AI framework we're looking at today says, no, you have it completely backward. The talking, the exchange of information that comes first, the stuff is just the result of the conversation.
So this is our mission for this deep dive. We're going to trace this idea, this meaning circuit. We're going to go from the very bottom, how subatomic particles talk to each other, to literally create space and time, all the way up.
All the way up to plants screaming at insects.
Which they do. And whales gossiping in dialects, and finally, how AI is fundamentally changing what it means to be alive, or even, well, what it means to be dead.
And I think the key takeaway, the one thing I want people to just keep in the back of their minds as we go through all this, is that knowledge isn't static. It's not a book on a shelf.
It's a living system.
It's a living system. It evolves. What we are seeing is that the universe is basically one giant self-correcting learning algorithm.
Which is both beautiful and, honestly, a little bit terrifying. The hook that really got me in the intro of this material was the phrase, formative substrate.
Yeah.
Language isn't just describing the world.
No.
It's the brick and mortar.
Exactly. It doesn't describe the table. The source material is arguing the information as the table.
So let's stop looking at the universe like it's a machine or a clock, and let's start looking at it like a conversation. And to do that, we have to go right down to the basement, the foundation. We have to start with physics.
We have to talk about John Wheeler,
A legendary physicist. And he gave us a phrase that sounds, it sounds a little like a Dr. Seuss rhyme, but it basically, according to this research, explains everything. It from bit.
It from bit.
Yeah.
It's so catchy, but it is incredibly dense with meaning. Wheeler was trying to solve one of the most fundamental problems there is. Why is there something rather than nothing?
A big one.
And his hypothesis was that every particle, every field of force, even the very fabric of space-time, it all derives its function, its meaning, its very existence from binary choices.
Okay, let's slow down and really chew on that for a second. Binary choices, you mean like yes or no, 0 or 1, like computer code?
It's the ultimate computer code, but, unlike your laptop, which is just processing data that we feed into it, the universe is processing itself. Wheeler is saying that at the bottom of reality, there isn't a thing. There isn't a tiny little billiard ball called an electron.
What is there then?
There is a question.
A question.
A binary question. Are you there? Yes or no? Is this spin up or is it spin down? Yes or no? And the answers to these questions, the bits, they crystallize into what we perceive as the physical matter.
So if I strip away the chair I'm sitting on, right down to the molecules, down to the atoms, down past the quarks, you're saying eventually I just hit a series of answers to yes or no questions.
That is the theory. And this is what they call the universal theory of information, or TUI. It posits that information is the primary substrate. It comes before matter. It comes before energy. And here's the part that usually breaks people's brains. It comes before space and time.
Yeah, okay, that's where I get stuck. I can imagine a computer floating around in space and processing data, but you're saying the computer actually makes the space.
Okay, think about it this way. Imagine a library that starts with 0 books. There are no shelves, no building, nothing at all, just a void.
Got it.
Suddenly, a book appears. That's a bit of information. Now, a second book appears. To know that there are 2 books, they have to be different, right? They can't be in the same place.
Right. If they occupy the exact same spot and they're identical, they're just one book.
Exactly. To distinguish book A from book B, you need a separation. You need a relationship between them. This one is here, that one is there. That relationship, that here and there, that is space. Space isn't some pre-existing container just waiting to be filled up.
It's the filing system.
It's the filing system that emerges because information needs to be sorted. It has to be organized to exist as distinct bits.
So, wait a minute. Does that mean the more information the universe generates, the more space it needs to file it all away?
Precisely. And this, according to the research, explains one of the biggest mysteries in cosmology. The expansion of the universe.
Why it's getting bigger.
Yeah, why is it getting bigger? Because the amount of information, the number of bits being generated, is asymmetrical. It's always growing. It's always another yes or another no. The database is constantly getting fuller, so the hard drive has to physically expand to hold it all.
That is, wow, okay. So if space is the filing cabinet, what is time?
Time is the filing clerk. Or maybe the speed of the filing clerk.
Elaborate on that.
In this framework, time is defined simply as the rate. It's the rate at which these informational differences appear. Time isn't some river flowing on its own. Time's just the ticking clock of the universal processing cycle. If no new information was being processed, time literally wouldn't pass.
This connects back to that meaning circuit idea. Wheeler talked about the universe as a self-synthesizing system, all connected through quantum networking. But he didn't just talk about particles, did he? He talked about us.
The participators.
This is the part that makes me feel important.
It should. Wheeler argued that the observer, the participator, provides the iron posts of reality. Because the system is built on these binary choices, these questions, is it there or is it not? The system remains in a fuzzy state of probability until something interacts with it.
Until an answer is demanded.
Exactly.
It's the Schrodinger's cat scenario, but for the entire cosmos.
Correct. But magnified 1 billion times. We aren't just watching the play. Our act of watching is what forces the actors to say their lines and solidify the scene.
Now, we have to be fair here. I'm sure there are people listening who are thinking, okay, this sounds like philosophy. Or maybe even mysticism, not physics.
And that is a totally valid critique. The material is very clear that there is significant pushback on this. The main counter-argument is what's called the substrate problem.
Meaning?
Well, critics say you can't have software without hardware. You can't have a thought without a brain. You can't have information without a physical object to encode it on. So they argue that the universe can't just be thoughts without a thinker, or at least a cosmic brain.
But the research argues that the mass creates a bridge here. It brings it back to hard science. Specifically, something called Shannon entropy.
Claude Shannon, the father of the information age. He's a giant.
And when we hear the word entropy, we usually think of messiness,
Right.
disorder,
Yep.
things falling apart.
That's thermodynamic entropy, yeah. But Shannon entropy, which is represented as the dollars, is slightly different. It's really a measure of uncertainty. Or, another way to put it is, the potential for surprise.
Help me out here. How does surprise equal information? I don't quite get that.
Okay, let's play a quick game. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 2.
Okay. Is it 1?
Yes.
That wasn't very exciting.
Right. There was very low uncertainty. You knew it was either 1 or 2. So when I told you you didn't learn very much, the surprise was very low. Now, what if I told you I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 1 billion?
Oh, okay. Now that's a lot of uncertainty.
A huge amount of uncertainty. So that's a high entropy state. But when I give you the answer, or when you start narrowing it down, the resolution of that uncertainty yields a massive amount of information. Shannon proved you can actually quantify this mathematically.
And the research is saying this same math applies to the whole universe.
It does. It provides a mathematical bridge that connects electronic engineering, bits in a computer, with thermodynamics, which is heat, and cosmology stars. For instance, the text mentions that the maximum Shannon measure of information, or SMI, in one-dimensional momentum involves thermal particles.
Which means what in plain English?
It means that the heat coming off a star and the processing of data in a microchip are governed by the exact same underlying laws of entropy and information. It from bit isn't just a catchy slogan, it's an actual equation.
So if we've established that the universe is basically made of information, that it's this noisy, expanding library of bits, then looking for aliens, for life out there, shouldn't just be about looking for biological goo on a rock.
Exactly.
It should be about looking for information structures.
Yes, exactly. If intelligence is just, at its core, sophisticated information processing, we should be able to see its signature in the data. And this brings us to the new frontier of SETI.
Section 2. The search for cosmic intelligence. And I just want to be clear, this is not the movie Contact where Jodie Foster is sitting with headphones on just listening to static.
No. That was the analog era. We're deep in the AI era now. The bottleneck in astronomy right now isn't, can we see enough stars? It's, we have too much data. We are drowning in it.
The numbers in this research are just staggering. It mentions AI systems processing astronomical data 600 times faster than the previous methods.
We're talking about data rates like 86 gigabits per second.
86 gigabits per second. What is that even? That's like downloading the entire Library of Congress every few seconds, isn't it?
Roughly, yeah. It's an immense amount of data. They are using platforms like NVIDIA's Holoscan and IGX Thor at places like the Allen Telescope Array. These are essentially supercomputers that are strapped directly to the telescopes.
But the speed isn't even the most interesting part. It's how they are looking.
The agnostic search.
I love that name.
It's brilliant. In the past, we look for very specific things. We'd listen for a radio signal at 1420 megahertz because that's the frequency of hydrogen. And we just assumed, well, any intelligent alien would know that's an important number. We were looking for a very specific type of postcard.
But the agnostic search assumes we have no idea what the postcard even looks like.
Right. Maybe they communicate with lasers or gravitational waves, or maybe they use some form of quantum entanglement that we haven't even invented yet. So instead of looking for a specific message, the AI is programmed to look for anomalies.
The analogy they use here is fantastic. Firefly flash sequences.
It's the perfect way to think about it. Imagine you are standing in a pitch-black forest at night. It's chaos. You hear leaves rustling, the wind blowing, just random noises all around you.
High entropy.
Exactly. The universe is noisy. Then suddenly, way off in the distance, you see a little cluster of lights and they're blinking. Blink, blink, pause. Blink, blink, pause.
That's not random.
It's not random. It has coherence. It has symmetry. It stands out against the background noise. That is what the AI is hunting for. It's hunting for technosignatures. Any pattern of coherence that implies an intentional structure, even if we have no clue what the structure says.
It's a fundamental assumption that advanced civilizations are going to be organized. They won't be high-entropy chaos. There will be low-entropy order.
Yes, because meaning implies structure. If we can find the structure, we can eventually find the meaning.
Speaking of structure and meaning, let's bring this down from the stars to something a little more grounded. Literally. Let's talk about dirt.
Okay.
Section 3, the language of flora.
This is where we get into a field called biosemiotics.
That is a $5 word if I've ever heard one. Break it down for us.
Sure. Bio just means life. And semiotics is the study of signs and symbols. So biosemiotics is the study of how living things use signs to survive and communicate. The argument here is that the real difference between a rock and a plant isn't just that the plant is alive and grows. It's that the plant interprets signs from its environment.
So a rock gets kicked, it rolls. That's just physics. A plant gets eaten, it reacts. That's information processing.
Exactly. And the research lays out these 3 rules of plant communication that sound like they come from a linguistics class: syntactic, pragmatic, and semantic.
Syntactic. That's like the grammar.
Essentially, yes. It's the combinatory possibilities of the chemical signals. Plants don't just emit one smell, they mix and match different chemicals to create incredibly complex compounds. That's their syntax.
And pragmatic.
That's the intent. Why are you sending this message? Is it to attract a pollinator? To find more sun? Or is it to defend yourself?
And semantic is the meaning of the message itself.
Right, and it's based on context. A specific chemical signal might mean grow roots deeper in the spring during a drought, but that same signal might mean go dormant in the winter. The plant reads the room.
My favorite part of this whole section, though, is the defense mechanisms. The text calls it the scream of the plant, but it's a silent scream. Or maybe a smelly one.
It's definitely a smelly one. They use volatile organic compounds, VOCs. These are basically airborne chemical messages.
And the lima bean example in the source material reads like an action movie script.
Yeah.
I had no idea lima beans were this tactical.
The lima bean is a genius. The research identifies 5 distinct strategies it can use. So let's say a little spider mite lands on a lima bean leaf and starts munching. Strategy 1. The bean immediately changes its own flavor and scent to become disgusting.
It says, I taste bad now, go away.
Right. But the mite might be stubborn and keep eating. So strategy 2. The bean releases a specific VOC that floats over to the neighboring lima bean plants. It warns them.
It's a neighborhood watch system.
It is. It's saying, hey guys, mites are in the area. Start pumping up your toxins now before they get to you.
That's incredible.
But then strategy 3 is the real kicker. This is the air support. The lima bean actually analyzes the saliva of the specific mite that's eating it. It identifies the exact species of pest.
No way.
Yes. Then it synthesizes and releases a very specific cocktail of scents that attracts the natural predator of that pest.
Oh, it so calls the cops.
It calls the cops. It's sending out a signal that says, hey, parasitic wasps, there are tasty spider mites right here on this leaf. It literally recruits bodyguards. That is complex, pragmatic communication.
That's unbelievable. It's not just reacting, it's strategizing. It identifies a threat, formulates a specific message, and targets a specific receiver, the wasp, to solve the problem.
And the tomato plant does something similar, but internally.
Right, with cystamin and jasminate.
Yeah, when a leaf gets chewed, it releases these peptides. They travel through the plant's vascular system like hormones in our body, and they trigger the production of something called protease inhibitors all over the plant.
Which do what, exactly?
They mess up the digestion of the bug that's eating it. The bug eats the leaf, but it can't get any nutrients out of it. It gets a massive stomach ache and decides to go find an easier meal somewhere else. It's chemical warfare.
And all of this is coordinated by what the research calls the root brain.
Darwin actually coined that phrase. He was talking about the root apex. It's a decentralized nervous system. The chemical detail in the notes is just staggering. The roots of a single plant can produce up to 100,000 different chemical compounds.
100,000?
100,000. Think about the size of the vocabulary required to produce that many distinct signals. They use these chemicals to distinguish self from non-self. A root knows if the root it's bumping into is another one of its own roots or if it's the root of a competitor.
And there's a specific molecule mentioned, auxin.
Auxin is fascinating. It acts very much like a neurotransmitter does in our own brains. It facilitates cell-to-cell communication. It tells cells when to divide, where to position themselves, when to grow. So no, plants don't have neurons, but they have a sophisticated network that processes information, makes decisions, and executes plans. If that's not a form of intelligence, I don't know what is.
So we've got the cosmos made of bits. We've got plants engaged in chemical warfare. Now let's blur the lines a bit. Section 4, the holobiont.
This is where we really have to challenge our definition of I. You know, when you say, I am hungry, who is actually speaking?
Well, me, my brain, my stomach.
Maybe. But you are a holobiont. You are a host organism, that's you, plus trillions of bacterial symbionts living in and on you. You're not an individual. You are a walking, talking ecosystem. And for that ecosystem to function, all the parts have to talk to each other constantly.
The example of lichen is the classic one here, right?
Lichen is the poster child for this. It looks like a simple crust on a rock, but it's actually a complex partnership between a photobiont, usually algae, that makes sugar from sunlight, and a mycobiont, a fungus that creates the physical structure.
So they're two different species.
Completely different kingdoms of life, but they have to speak to each other chemically to build this third organism that is the lichen. They are co-authors.
But it's not always such a happy cooperative marriage. The research brings up a much darker example, the Drosophila fly and a bacteria called Wolbachia.
This part reads like a sci-fi horror movie.
It really does.
It really does. So Wolbachia is a bacteria that lives inside the cells of the fly. Now, on the one hand, it provides viral immunity, which is good for the fly. The fly gets sick less often. But there is a very big catch. Wolbachia is only transmitted through the maternal line. It's passed from a mother fly to her eggs.
So male flies are completely useless to the bacteria.
Males are a dead end. If the bacteria ends up in a male fly, it dies when the fly dies. So what does the bacteria do? It hacks the communication system of the fly embryo.
How to do that?
It interferes with the hormonal signaling during the fly's development. It can literally transform embryos that are genetically male into females.
That's terrifying. A bacteria is hijacking the gender of its host just to ensure its own survival.
It's overriding the genetic voice of the fly with its own chemical signal. It's a perfect, if creepy, demonstration that interspecies signaling can be so powerful it can literally rewrite the biology of its host. The I of the fly is being overruled by the we of the holobiont.
That connects perfectly to our theme. Information structures reality. In this case, the chemical information from the bacteria structures the physical body of the fly.
We are just vessels for the ongoing conversation.
Okay, let's move up the complexity ladder again. We've done plants, we've done bacteria. Now let's talk about something with a brain we can actually recognize. Section 5. Animal cognitive empathy and the whale code.
Before we get to the whales, I want to touch on the dog gaze that's mentioned in the research because it's so relatable for so many people.
I have a golden retriever, so I know that gaze very, very well. It's a weapon.
It is a weapon, but when you look into your dog's eyes and he looks back at you, it's not just you thinking it's cute, it's a profound chemical event. The research shows that this mutual gazing triggers a bidirectional release of oxytocin.
Bonding hormone.
The bonding hormone. It's the exact same chemical spike a human mother gets when she's looking at her newborn infant.
So we've literally co-evolved a communication channel with dogs.
Yes. We are chemically hacking each other's brains to induce love and trust. It's a cross-species handshake. But when we look at something like sperm whales, we're finding something even more complex.
Project CETI, the Cetacean Translation Initiative.
For decades, we've heard sperm whales making these rhythmic clicking sounds. You know, click, 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 post, dot, click. We call them codas. We thought maybe they were just sort of saying, I am here.
Like a name tag or sonar.
Right. Pretty simple stuff. But Project CETI used machine learning, AI, to analyze thousands of hours of these clicks. And they found structure. Deep, complex structure.
What kind of structure?
They found what they describe as vowels and diphthongs. They found that the rhythm, the tempo, the ornamentation, it all varies in very consistent ways. And crucially, it varies by social group.
So they have dialects.
They have distinct cultures. A whale from a Caribbean clan speaks a different language of clicks than a whale from a clan in the Pacific. They have in-group markers. It's their way of saying, you talk like me, so we are family.
And the AI model they're using is called WHAM, the Whale Acoustics Model.
And WHAM isn't just listening anymore. It's learning to speak. It's generating synthetic codas. The goal is to find the deep grammar of their language. And if we can find the grammar, we can theoretically begin to translate the meaning.
Imagine that. Actually having a conversation with a creature that has a brain larger than ours, that has lived in the deep ocean for millions of years. What on earth do they talk about?
Probably where to find the best squid, but maybe they talk about history or navigation. The point is, the meaning circuit exists in the deep ocean just as profoundly as it does in the stars.
Let's turn that microscope inward now. We've looked at the outer world. What about our inner world? Section 6, the Book of Life. Genomics as text.
This is a metaphor we hear all the time, right? DNA is code, the 4 letters, A, C, T, and G.
It feels very it from bit. The ultimate binary.
It fits perfectly. The genome is essentially a biological storage device for billions of years of evolutionary information. However, the expert caveat in the research here is really important. We shouldn't get too carried away calling it computer code.
Why not? It seems like a perfect analogy.
Because computer code is clean most of the time. It's logical, if, then, dot else. DNA is messy. It's spaghetti code. It's been patched and rewritten and had bits copied and pasted by evolution for eons, and it interacts with the environment in incredibly complex ways. It's not just a static script. It's a dynamic, living text.
But treating it like a text allows us to read it and even edit it. And this brings us to personalized medicine.
This is the practical application of that metaphor. If your DNA is a book, sometimes there are typos. And the research highlights that a change in just 1 or 2 base pairs out of 3 billion can be a difference between a healthy life and a debilitating disease.
That's an incredibly tiny error rate.
It is, but the consequences are massive. So a field like pharmacogenomics is where we stop treating the human body like a generic machine. We start reading your specific book. We can tailor drugs to your specific genetic typos.
This is like spell check for the human body.
Essentially, yes. But as the outline notes, this raises huge privacy issues. High pay is mentioned. If your DNA is the most personal data there is, who owns that data? If an insurance company can read your book, they can know your future health risks. That's incredibly powerful and dangerous information.
There's a weird transition in the research here, jumping from DNA to energy grids. but I think I can see the connection they're making. It's about survival signals.
Right. DNA is the code for biological survival. The energy grid is the code for societal survival. And we are seeing the rise of so-called smart grids.
These autonomous energy systems using 5G and Zigbee technology.
These grids are starting to look less like mechanical systems and more like biological systems. They're decentralized. They communicate constantly, node to node. I have too much power over here, send it over there. The sun is going down in this sector, ramp up the battery storage.
And the research notes that large language models, LLMs, the same technology that's behind things like ChatGPT, are now being used to manage these grids.
This is wild to me. We are having AI read the language of the market, the language of the weather, and the language of consumer behavior, all to keep our lights on. Code and data are literally becoming the nervous system of our cities.
It's just layers of language built on top of layers of language.
The architecture of meaning is getting taller and taller.
So let's climb to the penthouse of that architecture, Section 7, Symbolic Reality. This is about art, music, and math.
Neuroaesthetics.
I love this term. It sounds like a spa treatment for your brain or something.
It sounds relaxing, but it's actually the opposite. It's quite an active process. The research points out that art, and specifically abstract art, isn't just pretty. It's a full-on cognitive workout for your brain.
Why abstract art in particular? Why does a Jackson Pollock painting do more to my brain than, say, a realistic picture of a bowl of fruit?
Because the bowl of fruit is low entropy, it's easy to process. You look at it, your brain says apple, banana, grape, and you move on. The puzzle is solved instantly. But a Pollock painting, that's high entropy. It's ambiguous. There's no easy answer.
So my brain just gets annoyed.
Your brain gets engaged. Your prefrontal cortex, the executive problem-solving center of your brain, kicks into high gear. It's desperately trying to find a pattern. It's trying to resolve the uncertainty and create meaning. Looking at abstract art is literally forcing your brain to practice critical thinking and pattern recognition.
It's that fundamental it-from-bit instinct again. Our brains crave order from the chaos.
We do, and music acts as what the research calls cognitive architecture. They describe it as a mnemonic device.
This explains why I can't remember my Wi-Fi password to save my life, but I can recite the entire, very long lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Exactly. The melody and the rhythm provide a structure, a filing cabinet for the words. It activates the hippocampus and the prefrontal regions of your brain. It binds information to emotion and to a timeline.
And then there's math. The source calls it poetic logic.
People often think of math and art as total opposites, cold logic versus warm emotion. But the research points to people like J.S. Bach and M.C. Escher. They use profound mathematical principles like symmetry and topology to create breathtaking beauty.
The Mobius strip, the fugue, the tessellations.
The insight here is that math is a symbolic domain that connects the individual mind to the cosmos. When you understand a mathematical proof, you are speaking the fundamental language of the universe. It's the same language that formed the it from bit in the first place.
We're talking to the universe in its own native tongue.
Beautifully put, yeah.
But we also need to talk to our own past. Section 8, Archaeology.
Or, as the material frames it, archaeology as dialogue.
I usually think of archaeology as, digging up old stuff, finding potsherds. But the text frames it as a communication system.
It's a conversation with the dead. And we use tools like endocrinology, reading tree rings, and radiocarbon dating to decode the message that's left behind. A tree ring is just a biological hard drive that recorded the weather of the year 1492.
But there's a conflict here in the field, isn't there? This theoretical divide.
Right. On one side, you have the processual archaeologists. They want to be like physicists. They want to be purely objective, just the fact.
And on the other side,
you have the post-processual camp. And they say that pure objectivity is impossible.
Why is it impossible?
Because we are the observers. Remember the quantum physics we talked about at the beginning? You can't separate the observer from the system being observed. When we interpret the past, we are always viewing it through the lens of our present. We bring our own biases, our own cultural context. We are telling a story about the data, not just reading the data off a screen.
So we are writing the history as much as we're finding it.
Exactly. We're in a dialogue with it.
This brings us to a very modern and I think a very urgent problem. If we write reality with information, what happens when we start writing lies? Section 9, the crisis of meaning.
This is the heavy part of the dive. We are living in a time where that meaning circuit is being deliberately and systematically weaponized.
We're talking about AI, disinformation, and the so-called post-truth world.
The research specifically mentions the rise of gendered disinformation using AI to generate and automate harassment campaigns, particularly against women journalists. But it also talks about the sheer speed of panic.
The Hurricane Helene case study from 2024.
This was a real wake-up call for a lot of people. In the middle of a natural disaster, we saw synthetic images, AI deepfakes of flood victims, of destroyed infrastructure that were completely fabricated. But these images looked real, and they were shared millions of times.
And they caused real-world panic and harm.
They clogged up emergency lines. They diverted first responders to places where there was no emergency. The fake image, created a delayed rescue for real victims.
And here's the twist in the research that really surprised me. It says that humans are the real problem, not just the bots.
We love to blame the bots, don't we? But the data shows that bots just jumpstart the viral momentum. They light the match. But humans, we are the gasoline.
Why? Why do we share this stuff so eagerly?
Confirmation bias is a huge part of it. But it's also dopamine. When you see an image that confirms your worst fear or your deepest anger, it feels good, in a weird way, to share it. It validates your worldview. High entropy confusion and uncertainty is uncomfortable. False certainty feels better to our brains than honest confusion.
But AI isn't just the villain in this story. It's also the preserver.
Yes, the counterbalance. We have incredible projects like the Rosetta Project and Google's 1,000 language program.
Living dictionaries.
We are losing human languages at an absolutely catastrophic rate. And when a language dies, a whole way of thinking, a unique meaning circuit goes dark forever. AI is being used to record, archive, and in some cases even revitalize these endangered languages.
And the app Woolaroo is mentioned.
That's a great example. It helps indigenous communities document their own heritage. It uses the machine to save the most human element of a culture.
There's also this concept of knowledge democracy. The farmer example they give is great.
This is what they call the dissolution of the interface. Imagine a farmer in a rural part of the world. He doesn't have a PhD in data science. He doesn't know how to read a satellite spectral analysis of his soil.
Of course not.
But with an AI interface, he can just ask his phone in his own language, why is my corn dying in this corner of the field?
And the AI translates all that complex data into plain language. It just says, you need more nitrogen here.
Exactly. It bridges the gap between the high-tech data and the mud on the farmer's boots. It empowers the user. It doesn't exclude them.
Now, we have to go to the strangest, most sci-fi part of this entire body of research. We've talked about saving languages. What about saving people? Section 10, the digital afterlife.
Digital necromancy.
I have to say, that phrase really bothers me. Necromancy sounds like some kind of dark magic.
It does. It invokes this idea of literally raising the dead. But technically what we're doing is just raising the data of the dead.
And the technology is already here. Effective computing, Microsoft's personal voice, 11 labs. You can clone a person's voice with just a few minutes of audio now.
And the case study of Marina Smith it's just haunting.
Paint the picture for us. What happened?
It was in 2022. It's Marina Smith's funeral. The mourners are all sitting in the pews, and up on a screen or via projection is a hologram of Marina Smith.
The deceased woman.
The deceased. And she isn't just playing a pre-recorded video. She is answering questions from the mourners. She's interacting with them in real time.
How are we feeling? I'm at peace. That sort of thing.
Yes. The AI was trained on hours of pre-recorded interviews she had done, and it was able to synthesize new answers in her voice, in her style.
How do people react to that?
It was completely divided. Some people found it deeply comforting, a chance for one last goodbye. Others found it profoundly disturbing, the uncanny valley of grief.
And this is happening in Japan, too. The research mentions Buddhist temples offering digital graveyards.
But we have to talk about the ethics here. This is an absolute minefield.
Complicated grief.
That's what psychologists are worried about. If you can keep texting your dead husband, if you can call him and keep hearing his voice, do you ever really accept that he's gone?
It could stall the entire mourning process. It reinforces a state of denial.
And then there's the issue of identity theft. If Marina Smith didn't explicitly consent to this, is it a violation of her personhood? Who owns your ghost after you die?
It forces us to ask the ultimate it from bid question. If you are just a collection of your memories, your mannerisms, your data points, and we can simulate that data perfectly, are you ever really dead?
Or does the information persist indefinitely? In a universe that's built on information, maybe deletion is a lot harder than we think.
That is a very heavy thought. Let's move to the final section and look forward. Section 11. agentic AI and abundant intelligences.
We are moving away from AI as just a tool, like a hammer you swing to AI as an agent, a co-author, a partner.
Agentic AI.
This is AI that doesn't just answer our questions, but starts asking its own questions.
Mm-hmm.
AI that can generate a novel hypothesis in chemistry or biology and then design and run the simulation to test it.
It's becoming a scientist in its own right.
It is. But there is a very important movement to ground this incredible power in something older, something more human. We don't want a cold, unfeeling scientist running the world. We want what this program calls abundant intelligences.
And this links the future of AI with indigenous knowledge, or IK.
Exactly. The goal here is to rebuild the foundations of AI, not on the Western model of extraction, mining data, taking what we want, but on ancestral wisdom, on principles of relationality, reciprocity, care for the planet.
What does that actually look like in practice?
It looks like using AI for intergenerational knowledge transfer. Using an AI as a mentor to pass down tacit knowledge, the stuff that isn't written down in books, how to weave a traditional basket, how to read the weather in the clouds.
And transparency.
That's essential. If we don't know how the black box is making its decisions, we can't ever truly trust it. We need to be able to see the iron posts of its decision-making process.
Expansion without exclusion.
Don't just build this technology for Silicon Valley. Build it with the communities it will affect. That's participatory research.
And finally, safeguarding truth.
We have to design systems that prioritize accuracy over engagement. We have to actively fight the scale production of polarization that our current systems are so good at.
So let's try and bring this all home. We have covered a lot of ground today.
We certainly have, from quarks to whales.
We started with this radical idea that binary bits, simple yes-no choices, create the very fabric of space-time. We saw how plants use a complex chemical syntax to scream for help. We listened to whale dialects across the oceans. We saw how our own DNA is a living text, and how AI is now learning to read, write, and sometimes even counterfeit that text.
It's the meaning circuit. It loops from the subatomic to the biological to the digital, and then all the way back again. It's all connected.
The research ends with this line: nothing is insignificant. In the interaction of every field, meaning emerges.
And we are all participators. We aren't just watching the universe unfold. By observing it, by speaking, by coding, by sharing a photo. We are actively helping to build the structure of reality moment by moment.
And that is the final provocative thought I want to leave everyone with today.
It's a big one.
If language shapes reality, and we are now building machines that are beginning to shape language on a global scale, what kind of reality are we building right now? Are we building a reality of noise and panic and deepfakes? Or are we consciously trying to build a reality of connection, of preservation, and of abundance?
The choice is literally in our hands, or I guess on our screens.
Thanks for taking this deep dive into the architecture of meaning with us. It's been a trip.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time. And keep talking. It matters more than you think.
Thank you for joining us for the AI podcast at DigitView.
We hope this episode gave you valuable insights into research AI.
This is DigitView.